All right, traders, let's get started. Wednesday, July 10th. Let's see. Pull up the chat. All right, let's take a look at the broader markets. We just keep grinding higher. I mean, look at the S&P here. We just, smaller candles, right? Just not a lot of volatility here, but just keep just grinding higher there. Same with the NASDAQ. What's interesting here is I was just looking at, look at this. Talk about an uptrend. This is the S&P on the 5-minute chart. Just look at that. Just pushing, pushing, pushing. And then we got a nice little bump right here. Same with the NASDAQ, just grinding up. And talk about the definition of an uptrend, right? Higher highs, higher lows. Just keep pushing up. What is interesting is I'm looking at my gap scanner. I'm not seeing a whole lot. Let's go to a different share. What I want to do is first, before I get into looking at some of the gaps, I want to share with you because I know there's a lot of new traders out there, a lot of people who like look at things that are just, moving and they wonder like, should I get into this? Should I do something with this? I want to give you a couple of really good examples of pump and dumps. Okay. So you look at something like this, okay, NNE goes from 325 up to 37 and change, right? We go from volume of like 300, 200, 100. Very little volume, picked up a little bit there, but 400, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, right? Then all of a sudden, it's like you get this spike. And this is a great example of how low volume stocks can be manipulated. And case in point, I see this all the time. So what they're doing is when I say the people behind the company, right? They push it, they get this pump and dump started, they get the price of the stock up here, and then also what they do it so that they can do a share offering. Okay, they're just trying to generate more money. But in order, the more money, the higher the price of the stock, the more that they can get on the offering. And that is a great example of, you see this all the time, right? That kind of a move. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why all of a sudden does a ticker like that just suddenly just go, rampaging higher? And that's the reason why. Now look at here, like now they're offering a new offering. They're just trying to raise money. Happens all the time. One other example here. Right? Cost. Same thing. Right? You look at this and you go, why? We go from, what are we, 4 and change up to 18. When you see something like that going parabolic, there's a reason behind it. And you have to ask yourself why, right? And, we all saw this with the Wall Street, Reddit, right? With the Wall Street bets. It's just manipulation. And so when I see something like that, I stay away from it. And I would recommend anybody who's looking at you, because somebody's going to get caught holding the bag, right? And you don't want it to be you. But this, like, people get so, like, they see a move like this and like, and they get FOMO and then they want to get involved. And it's like, just don't worry about it, right? It's this kind of price movement is the exact thing I stay away from. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse. I just wanted to share that with you. Just I was going through some of the gaps today, and I saw those two, and I thought, you know what? Let me just bring that to everyone's attention, right? Especially you new traders. Give me one second. I can pull the chat back out here. Move that around. Okay, let's take a look at. I've got a couple tickers. Not a lot is gapping, right? There's gaps, but nothing that is blowing my mind. So let's just go through some of those tickers and then we'll look at our usual suspects. you know, this ticker here, it's a gap up, right? But the move has already happened pre-market. So it looks like this was a earnings gap, 7.9. So that's from yesterday. But that must have been end of the day. Yeah, after market close. So this move here, right? Big part of that move has already happened. Now, it doesn't mean that it can't continue to move, right? So let's just take a look. If it's got to be above that level, right? And we are. So we can add this to the list. Let me just maintain the buy on Smart. Let me just check a couple things out. ATR is decent. It's 80 cents, which meets my criteria. Volume is, it can be light at times. I think it's something that we could keep an eye on, right? So we do have a gap and go there. So that is one that we can watch. Let me put that on the list. What I would like to see is 24.38. I want to see where this high is right here, 24.38. Okay, so it's all right there. We're good. Okay, so as long as we're gapping above that, I like that because anybody here who went short all through here, and especially yesterday, right? Everyone's trapped. So there's a nice bullish gap and go. Okay, cool. Thanks, Jay. Albert, I'll check this out. Yeah, Carvana is definitely on the list as well. So let's add that. I'm going to put that, where am I going to put that? Maybe I'll put that in place of Amazon because Amazon is just sideways movement right now. All right, so we've got a gap and go there on SGH. And the pre-market volume is good. Again, a lot of that move happened, after the market yesterday. So let's just look at just what are we doing today? What's the volume looking like pre-market? Looks like there was one there was about 8,400, 700. So, it's questionable. Again, my cutoff is 10,000. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see how it opens. I do like the fact that the earnings is the catalyst here. Let's go. We'll take a look at some of the ones you're throwing out. The Carvana is one that I already identified as well. Let's take a look at that. Okay. So we have a retest gap, right? We've got a bullish candle gapping up, trapping anybody here, trapping anybody here, right? But not trapping these people. It would be, and what's the, right now it's up about 4.5%. So the gap is decent. Again, it's a retest gap. Let's zoom in here. Got to be aware of this pre-market high, which is 132. And pre-market volume is not great as I scan across here. 4,000, 2,000. It might be close to 10,000. But anyway, that is on my list. We'll keep an eye on that. Just bear in mind, it is a retest gap. We have so what I'm looking at is the high of this candle, right? That's where we definitely want to open above this candle right here. And then we do have to be aware of where price got rejected pre-market, which is 132. Take a look at Visa. All right, so Visa, we have a gap down. So that's going to be an important thing is where it opens, right? So here's the weekly. Here's the weekly 50. And that is 261.24. Let's color code that. Make that line a little thicker so I know it's the weekly. All right. So yeah, like the gap, again, it's a retest gap. We want to hold underneath that level. Let's see. Let me just check out the volume. Yeah, so volume's okay. Pre-market volume is decent. Okay, so we'll keep Visa on the list. Jay's got a couple. All right, Spotify. So just looking down here. So they got downgraded. It's interesting. None of these are, I don't know why, but they're not showing up on my scanner for my gap downs. Huh. All right, so let's color code this. That's 306.28. Oh, I know why. Yeah, on my scanner, I actually do have a limit on the price for the scanner. That's why it's not showing up because of the price of it. 306.28. Color code that. Okay, so retest gap. It is, again, it is a downgrade. So there's the catalyst. We got to be aware of this is the 100 on the daily. So we'll color code that. All right. So that would be the initial target, right? I mean, you have other pivots here that you would have to, contend with, but ultimately this 100 would be, for me, that would be the target. Okay. Let's see. Let's keep going. MA. Let me add spot to my list. Yeah. Jay likes all these higher price tickers. Here's let's see, MA, MasterCard trading lower after another downgrade. Okay, so it's another downgrade. Let's see where we. So right now we are right at the got these levels here. So here's the 200 on the daily. And this is the 50 on the weekly. Let's check out the volume. The volume is a little light, but we'll add it to the list. Keep a look on it. Let's see, MA. AMD, a couple of you are calling out AMD. Okay, so Jay's adding AMD acquires Europe's largest private AI lab. Okay, so right here. So it's an acquisition. So that is one thing I stay away from. So if it's an acquisition, okay, unless it's the company that is doing or that's being acquired, right? Um, it's not as to me, it's not as much of a catalyst. Okay, so AMD is the one doing the acquiring, so less of a catalyst for AMD than it is for the company being acquired. In terms of what it's doing here. Let's see. So it's getting a gap on news. Be curious to see if this gap holds. But AMD is one of my usual. It's always on my charts. So we'll keep an eye on it. This could end up being a fade. We'll see. Again, it's usually the company that is doing the acquiring tends to go down, not up. It's the company that is being acquired. But AMD is always on my list. I've got it on one of these charts right in front of me. So we'll keep an eye on that. GH, let's see. Some of the other tickers. Carvana we looked at, AMD, Lorman's VZ. Verizon. All right, let's take a look. So we got a gap down. So it would be a retest gap. Pre-market volume, little light. Oh, no, there's another. Okay, no, pre-market volume's decent. Okay, let's see. We have a lot of moving averages here. So we've got let's see where we're gapping. Okay, so we're gapping below. There's the 10 EMA, which is basically the low of this candle. Then we've got the 20 right here, which is good. It's down below that. So that gives us some room. And then we've got the 100 and the 50 down here. Okay, so this is going to be, let's just make this, color code this for my 10 EMA, or my 20, I mean. So there's my 20. And then down here, these are so close that, I'm just gonna make the 50 is going to be coming up. So I'm just going to make it just the 100 on the, all right. So the 50 is coming up the 100. So we do have a target area here. All right. So we'll keep an eye on Visa. I mean, sorry, Verizon. Oh, Tim is saying dividend gap. Thanks. Oh, right there. Should have seen that. Yep. Yeah, it's a dividend gap. So again, not as, it's not exactly the catalyst that it's going to make it move, right? We'll keep an eye on it, but it is a dividend gap. So there's a reason for it. It's not that it's like, something that is going to be a major catalyst to make it continue to move. So Tim, thanks for adding that. Tim says TSM. So we could potentially have a small gap and go. Let's see, what's the just looking to see what the higher after the company reported June. Okay, June revenue. So they must have had a press release about June, because I mean, obviously the earnings aren't for another 8 days. So, okay, so they must have had a good June. Let's zoom in here a little bit. High of this candle yesterday, 188.44. And that is 192.80. All right, so there's definitely room here. Okay, so that's a good. If that level can hold here, and that was decent volume yesterday, right? Nice volume. People are definitely going to be trapped here. So good call out there, Tim. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's see, where can I put? All right, Tim, you called that out. So I'm gonna I don't have room on one of my charts for that. So I'm gonna leave it up to you to assume you're gonna be watching that. Post an update in the chat. I'm gonna write it down. All right, let's take a look at some of the, what do we have? We have 8 more minutes. Let's take a look at all the usual suspects. Let's look at Tesla. Tesla, finally came to life, right? Look at this. Finally, after all this sideways movement, boom, finally came to life, looking good. Currently trading within yesterday's price action. Let's just throw that in there. So what caught my eye just then, right? So here's the high from yesterday. Here's the pre-market high. So clearly a level we got to get above right there, right? That's going to be the battleground. Doesn't mean you can't get above it, but that is going to be a key level to get up above. And then we'll, and plus, if we're going to be playing like the 10 EMA strategy, then we would want it above yesterday's high anyway. Take a look at NVIDIA. So NVIDIA right now is holding yesterday's high. It's right there. That is already on one of my screens. Let's see. Okay. SGH we already looked at. AMD we looked at. Apple. Let's take a look at Apple. So Apple just grinding higher. Let's see. 229.40. Let's mark off the pre-market high right there. We want to be aware of that if we look to get into anything. All right, Carvana we looked at. Go back to Carvana for a second. Just want to add that line up there so we know where that is. So right now, Carvana is just kind of, we look here, kind of caught between these two levels, right? So we're in between the pre-market high and the high from this 2 days ago. So just chopping around there. What I would want to see here is get a close above this, right? Strong close. We have some nice levels that we can use here for a stop, right? If we look at the pre-market here, if we go to a 15-minute chart, so we definitely have some levels here that we can use pre-market for a stop. But we also have this line as well. We got Powell again today at 10. He's killing me. All right. Well, yesterday, look, we had a great setup on NVIDIA yesterday, and we didn't take it because of Powell, right? So I'm not going to get FOMO over this, but if I do see a really good setup and I think we have time, I will take it. Yeah, he was pretty careful yesterday, right? So let's all right. So good to know. 10 o'clock. All right. We got 4 more minutes until the market opens. Any other tickers that anyone wants to look at? Let me see. I might have a couple here that I wrote down. Did we look at this one yet? All right. This was another one I found. What I like about it, okay, is if it can hold this level. Now, look, pretty obvious that the volume's kind of light, right? Definitely light volume, but it is gapping up. If it opens, right? If it opens above, we would have the 50 right here in our favor. We have it's gapping above these two candles. So anybody through here who went short is going to be trapped, right? Anybody under this line. So that's here. All of these people would be trapped. Any of the shorts there. Question is it going to open above that level? So we'll see. Bill wants coin. Yeah. So what's interesting is, yesterday I was kind of anticipating, like typically when Powell talks, like the market can get very volatile. And yesterday it was like I kept waiting, right? It was like I'm waiting for the shoe to drop because I was, expecting some serious volatility, and it just never happened. So to Tim's point, he was careful. He didn't say anything that moved the market. At the same time, we don't know what he's going to say, right? So it's like you sit there and you go, okay, well, do I go ahead? Do I take a trade while he's talking and risk him saying something that will move the market, or do I just, play it more conservatively and just sit on my hands? So, yesterday it was. I kept thinking all during that, like kept waiting. When is the market going to start getting some volatility? Anyway, Coinbase. Let's take a look. We are inside day, right? So we're trading inside all of yesterday's price action. So just be aware of that, right? You've got an inside day. There's bound to be some chop. I don't see anything down here that's, there's no news on Coinbase. So just be aware, right? Inside day, and inside day typically means chop. All right, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop the I am going to stop the live stream because the market is going to open any second now. I want to thank everyone out there on with YouTube being with us. Come on over to